So, Charles, there was good news and bad news over the last couple weeks in the NFL. Good news is that Aaron Rodgers was officially traded to the New York Jets from the Green Bay Packers. Good news is that Lamar Jackson signed his contract, the richest contract in NFL history with the Baltimore Ravens. That was the good news. Charles, the bad news is that we don't have any stories now. We're getting to that point of the NFL offseason where we needed that story that you can talk about every day that would lead in your A-block news of the NFL. We don't have that story now. The draft just ended. We don't have that story now. So for you, what should we expect over the next couple months? What is that story that's going to continue to keep driving NFL news until we get to training camp?
Well, we can stay in that quarterback lane. I mean, what's remarkable about this is, Hurts got done. Wow, massive deal. Lamar's deal gets done. Wow, massive deal. Aaron moves on. But remember, you still have two guys that are up right now, and you can extend them right now in not only Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, but Justin Herbert with the Los Angeles Chargers. I actually think, low-key, those two negotiations are going to be even more interesting than what we just saw go down with Baltimore and Lamar Jackson, because you have two organizations with the Chargers and the Bengals that have the reputation, and people can argue whether it's deserved or not.
Go ahead, say it, Charles. Say it. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're cheap, okay? Right?
There it is. It's okay.
They're not backing up the Brinks truck, okay? Unless it's the ownership's house. That's not really where the Brinks truck's getting backed up. They're not, considered these cash-rich franchises that like to have a ton of money in escrow because of the funding rules. So basically, you have two owners, and the Spanos family and Mike Brown with the Bengals that are sitting there and saying, "We'd love if we could get a deal done like a Patrick Mahomes deal." He locked himself up for a decade with the Chiefs. It was for a ton of money, but it was so much control that was kind of handed over to the franchise in that situation. And that's how it became a lucrative deal, but also very team-friendly. And Mike Brown's already even said he would like Joe Burrow to look at what Mahomes did and consider that, being the kind of deal that he does in Cincinnati. But if you ask me, hey, what's more likely, that it gets done this summer, or that it drags on all the way to the fifth-year option kind of situation with Lamar Jackson, I actually think it drags on. I'd be surprised if it got done unless one of those quarterbacks decides, I don't have to reset the market. I don't have to, bunny hop the Lamar Jackson contract. It's just, and here's the complication here. And, we've all done this long enough. You guys obviously been in the NFL. I mean, you have two agents that are going to sit there and go, yeah, let's let the other guy get done first.
Right.
let's stop. Let that. So even the agents are sitting there going, we don't want to be the first. If this is a two-horse race, we don't want to be the first across the finish line. We want to be second to make sure we get that. The new AAV, high, and I can say that our quarterback's the highest paid player in the game.
Charles, we talk so much about the fantasy football aspect of the NFL in terms of the skill position players. We just talked about the quarterbacks. We could talk about the receivers and running backs. But I think like a story that's not being talked about enough that has a lot of significance, because this guy's the reigning defensive player of the year in the National Football League. It's only a matter of time till he has the richest contract in NFL history for a defensive player. When does Nick Bosa get his contract signed? When does that deal get done? I think that's a big story coming out of San Francisco, and no one's talking about it. I think it's the situation with Trey Lance and Brock Purdy that, that's all we focus on. But why we're not talking about Nick Bosa and a contract that he's probably going to garner? Yeah,
I think there's a good chance that that's something that gets done going into camp. That's a different situation there. The ownership, they know they will pay players. Even, with the injuries that have happened there, I think there's no question in their minds the way that they've evaluated, Nick Bosa. They felt like this is a guy that, in their minds, they'll argue to you, well, he's been the defensive player of the year 3 years running. Like, we feel like he's been the best player, with all due respect to Aaron Donald. They think they've expressed to Nick that they think that he's the best defensive player in the game. So I don't think there's any worry on their part in terms of getting that done. They're gonna take care of what they can control. What they can't control is how fast Brock Purdy's elbow develops or heals. They can't control, what's going to happen ultimately with Trey Lance, if he's going to be able to, get himself on the track that they need him to get on. If anything, I would almost say if you're like, oh, is that the biggest storyline in San Francisco between those two? What if it's Sam Darnold? Like, what if you have a situation where they're sitting there staring at two quarterbacks in Brock Purdy and Trey Lance and going, well, I don't know, maybe it's Sam Darnold's season up until, training camp. Let's see what Sam's got left and what Kyle can do with him. We'll get the Bosa deal done. He's going to be the highest paid player on defense at some point before the 2023 season. Hopefully Sam Darnold can give us something so that every other part of this team looks fantastic and Super Bowl ready. They need something at quarterback tangible in the next couple of months more than anything.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.